We've got NBA news. The Avs are surging. NFL free agency stuff. And we're shorthanded. Look at us. It's just two of us. You're stuck again. Yes, it is. Welcome back to My Brother's an Idiot, the podcast full of apparently ringtones.
That was my Facebook telling us that we went live. That's what that was. I didn't know my Facebook made that noise because it has never done that before.
If you didn't know, we've now gone live. I'm leaving that in.
I'm going to have to figure out why that just happened because it doesn't do that usually.
Right? Yes, the podcast full of goonery, shenanigans, chicanery, sports, geekery, and whatever the hell else we want to talk about. Welcome back, and we are damn glad you are with us. As you can see, we are short a couple. Guldagoon, the Kaiser, the man we've named the podcast after, him with the hair, the goofy one who takes us off the rails all the time. He's got play tickets. Is that what it was?
Yeah, I can't remember which one, but yeah, they're at the theater.
Yeah, he and the Duchess are at a thing. Muti, this is too late for Muti, and dipshit, if you're out there, we still love you. Sure, she's watching streams of people watching hockey or something. She's in mourning because Colorado beat Toronto yesterday.
That's a good thing.
Oh, I know. She's a Blue Jays.
Oh.
She's a Maple Leafs fan, so that's her.
That's
squad.
just gross.
I know it is.
Is she Canadian?
No.
Okay, so why the hell is she a Maple Leafs fan?
I can't. I think it's because there's a guy who watches Steve Dangle. He's one of those. He's a big Toronto guy. I don't know. I tried digging into the bottom, to get to the bottom of it once, and my brain started hurting. So I decided
that's awkward,
right? Well, you know me. I am the king of the goons. Is your phone on? Is it like I'm hearing an echo? I can take this out too. Fun.
I am not on.
Okay. Right on.
Right now.
I don't. All right, whatever. You know me. I'm Matt. I'm king of the goons. Welcome. Sitting next to me virtually, my co-brother-in-law, holding down the fort in Extreme Southern Command. Tank, what's up, my brother?
Not much. Just following the free agency stuff this week. It's been interesting.
And that's one way to put it. Well, you brought it up. Let's get right into it. The Denver Broncos definitely made some eye-catching moves this week, sir. The first two signings out of the gate on Monday were agreed to contracts because they couldn't actually sign anyone Monday, but the contracts were done. They shored up their offensive line, brought in Ben Powers, guard from the Ravens, man who's really good at pass protection. Fantastic player in his own right. And Mike McGlinchey, the outstanding right tackle from San Francisco.
Yes.
Road grader, really good at run blocking. These two signings, Tank, really say they know what they have to fix, and they definitely made moves to fix them.
I think all of their signings kind of said that. Even the weirder ones, we were kind of like, well, why did we do that? But if you really look at it, most of the signings are, we picked up a couple of tight ends. We picked up a backup quarterback. We have running backs that are hopefully healthy, for next year. And obviously the biggest thing was the offensive line. They went after the offensive line because they know that was just atrocious last year. So
yeah, I think they knew they either weren't going to be able to keep or didn't want to keep Dalton Reisner. We wish him all of the best. Colorado kid. Loved watching him play here. But Ben Powers is definitely an upgrade at left guard. And now you get a really solid veteran presence on the left side of the line next to Garrett, who by all reports will come back wonderfully healthy from the broken leg. And we can look for some really good things on that left side of the line.
And seemingly that means we're going to be extending him out too, based on that.
Yeah.
Uh,
I heard it said once, I think it was Tyler Columbus, who said, Garrett's not great, but he's good. And it's so hard to find good left tackle play is that when you get one, you hold on to them.
well, and he has the ability to be great if he's coached
Mhm.
correctly. He showed that a couple seasons ago.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And he was playing well up until he got hurt. And it's a broken leg, right? So it's not like I'm sure it's going to hurt, right? But it's not like he's fighting soft tissue ligament damage.
Yeah. No, it's something he'll feel when he's 50, not right now.
Right, exactly. The third big move, they signed Zach Allen, defensive end from Arizona. Good player on an awful defense, reuniting him with his defensive coordinator, Vance Joseph. And when I say awful defense, they were undermanned most of the year. We talked about it 2 weeks ago when D Hop was volunteering to play cornerback because they didn't have any more
Yeah,
cornerbacks.
they were aggressively injured and just short
Mhm.
last
Yep.
season.
And Allen had 5.5 sacks last year. So on that bad of a defense, with just nobody, it was a mash unit. He still had a very solid year. So I think that's an awesome pickup.
Well, and he was the bring in because we apparently already knew we were losing Draymond. So they're
Right.
like, we need someone to fill a similar role, which I'm guessing means they're probably going to be keeping Williams then for the interior. I would assume.
Deshaun Williams is gone.
Oh, they got rid of Williams also. Okay.
He was signed to Carolina today, I
That was
believe.
today. Okay, I did not see that.
Yep. Yeah, that just happened today.
So we don't have a defensive tackle then. That's interesting.
No, I know. I mean, we'll find somebody. I mean, they still got big.
Oh, they got
Mike.
plenty of time, and
Yeah.
we got
Right.
long time before it's worrisome.
Yes,
I figured they were going to
exactly.
keep one of the two though to fill that middle space. That's
Right.
weird that they didn't.
I think they got priced out of the market.
Mm.
Right. I think both those guys, both of them had pretty good years.
Oh,
right.
definitely.
And the Broncos did have a ton of cap space, but a lot of holes to fill.
That
And
offensive line took up a good chunk of the money very quickly.
Yep, absolutely. So you can see kind of where they were headed with their first three. The next one I find super interesting. Samaje Perine from Cincinnati.
It makes sense when you think about who they got rid of with Mike Boone and Chris Redmond leaving.
Chase Edmonds.
Chase Edmonds, not Chris Edmonds. Sorry.
I'm like,
Chase
who's
Edmonds,
Chris?
yeah.
Who's Chris Redmond?
That was a former player in the NFL, I believe,
Right,
20 years ago.
You're right. Right. Perine is Latavius younger, right? He's 5'11", 235, big bruising back, actually catches the ball pretty well.
Yeah.
He's not the guy that you want to feature. They're obviously pinning their hopes on
Javonte return.
Javonte to return to at least something close to where he was. But now you've got two bruising backs, one who breaks a ton of tackles and one who will just batter you in a straight line.
Well, yeah, and if you look at how he was utilized with Cincinnati, I'm assuming it's going to be similar. He's not going to be the starter. He's going to be the utility guy that you bring in when you need it.
Yeah, I could see him filling that, third and short role. If you need a couple of yards, and he could just as easily go straight ahead or, run the flare out into the flat, because he's got pretty good hands.
Yeah.
I really like that pickup. And if you see him, the man looks intense. Like, he's scary.
I've honestly always liked Samaje. He's never gotten he's gotten a decent amount of credit, but people don't value him because he is kind of that alternate back. He's not going to be your starter, but he is going to be the guy that gets you out of a jam when you need it.
I'm honestly surprised that Cincinnati didn't do more to try to keep him. Mostly because there's a lot of unknowns going around with Joe Mixon.
Yeah, he's run into some issues recently, and it doesn't really make sense to get rid of your solid backup when you don't know if your starter is going to be available.
Right. Yeah. I found that a little bit odd. In our group chat, Mark compared Joe Mixon to everything that was going on with Ja Morant. And I said, you know what? Ja thinks he's about that life. Joe Mixon has always been about that
Yeah, there's
life.
a
I
difference
mean,
between those two people.
oh yeah, yeah. Joe Mixon came out of college with issues and has managed to keep a
He
lid on
went
it for the
into
last 6
college with
years.
issues.
Right. And he's managed to keep a lid on it to his credit for 6 years. And we still don't know what happened. There had something to do with shots fired and a Nerf gun fight. And that I don't think the full reports come out yet, but there's a
Don't think we're
lot
gonna
to
hear
come
that
there.
for a while. Yeah.
No, it's going to be a little bit. So like I said, I was surprised that Cincinnati didn't do more with the uncertainty in their backfield. And P. Ryan's a good veteran guy. He's 27, so he's on the tail end of what a running back career is, but he wasn't a guy that hauled the rock a lot. So he doesn't have a lot of mileage, even though he played a lot this year when Mixon got hurt. And you're going to need someone of that ilk in that room because they're going to find somebody to fill the room up from a younger perspective, whether it's an undrafted free agent or someone they pick up with one of their 2.5 picks in the draft. Running backs are everywhere. You can always find them.
Well, and
It's the most devalued position in the National Football League because they come in for a couple of years and they're gone. So they can just cycle through guys to fill that third and fourth spot.
Well, and I'm assuming based on, like I said, the couple of drops they've had and a couple of releases they've had, they're probably going to head into this season with Javante as the starter, Samaj as the backup, and then probably I think they're going to, if they haven't done it already, which I haven't seen it, they're probably going to pick up Latavius again on another vet min position, probably keep him on staff just in case. And then, like you said, they'll go fishing for a couple of young guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would welcome Latavius Murray back with open arms.
Mm-hmm.
He's everything we wanted, and he is a little bit long in the tooth, but the man was
Skill's still
just,
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Can get you 4 yards in a cloud of dust like nobody's business. Right. A signing that I thought was critical, and it's not a free agent signing, but a free agent keep. They keep Alex Singleton. The man is a tackling machine.
That was such a good move. We needed that. We need to keep that consistency on the interior because our linebacking core was just so injured last year.
Mm-hmm.
And having that consistency with Singleton will be good for them, I think.
Mm-hmm. With you had Singleton and Josie playing next to each other. I thought they fed off of each other pretty well when Josie was healthy. And like you said, when they got into the injury concerns, he was a shining light and kept Denver in a lot of games.
Yeah.
Man, I'm surprised the Ravens didn't keep him 2 years ago. Like this whole thing just is crazy to me. I don't understand how
the Eagles had him too at one point, and they let go of him. No.
Yeah, I don't get it, but he's definitely developed into a stud in the on the linebacking core for Denver. Another need that they addressed was the return game, which has been something that's been a bit of a bugaboo in Denver for a long time. Traymon Smith is signed to a contract. He's here for a couple of years. This guy can flat out fly.
Who's the legitimately most recent really good returner we had, though?
Darian Gordon.
That seems like a long time ago in my brain.
It was a long time ago.
I'm trying to think about.
Yeah.
We've had to have had somebody since Darian Gordon. We had to have.
Nobody. We've had guys who were decent, but they all had significant flaws. Trindon Holiday was short, fast, run by anybody, but it was a roller coaster every time he caught the ball.
That's
because
true. Yeah.
You didn't know if he was going to drop it or not. And it's been this merry-go-round of players back there, either from the kick or the punt return perspective, as to who you put back there that you can trust. And you need a threat. You need someone back there to make the coverage team react and not just someone to catch the ball. I mean, you can get anybody back there to catch the ball, right?
They don't always catch it. That's the problem.
No, and that's been the issue, right? So I really like that signing.
Eddie Royal. Maybe the most.
Yeah, he was a receiver who dabbled in it.
He was good at it when he did it, though.
Yeah, but they didn't use him there all the time. I mean, it was
Which I didn't understand because he was actually
Right.
really good at returning.
Yeah, I don't know. I can see your point maybe with Eddie Royal there,
But yes, Tremon Smith is a huge upgrade and
yeah, absolutely.
should make our special teams actually a little bit dangerous for the first time in a decade.
And that's what you want is like you said, you need that threat of danger,
Mhm.
right? You need someone to actually make someone spend some time to game plan for and not spend some time on other things in special teams, right?
Exactly.
So, it's just I really like it. They did add a couple of fullbacks to the room. Names aren't important; they're fullbacks.
Well,
But you can,
depending on what we do with our offense, because he sometimes has a tendency to use fullbacks, especially as pass catchers. So, and heavy on the H backs where they'll switch from fullback to tight end.
well. Oh, what's his name? Oh God, now I can't remember his name. The hybrid quarterback, tight end, fullback
Oh
in
God,
New Orleans. Yeah. How can I forget? God, getting old sucks.
I'm not even old and I can't remember his name. Boy from BYU.
Yeah. I don't know.
The Mormon
Whatever
missile
his
or
name
whatever they call him.
Yeah, right. He's not walking in the door anytime soon. So I think
he's being paid a shitload of money to be a tight end. So I wouldn't expect him anytime soon.
Right.
Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill, that's it. Taysom Hill. Good job. Thank you, Captain Google. That guy's not on this team. But having that more of a traditional fullback role, I think, is good, especially with this offense, right? You can run some good fullback lead. You can run some counter tray. You can run some of that passing game out of it, especially with, I'll just call it out right now. Andrew Beck is gone, and he was a guy that filled that role a little bit, could catch the ball, could block, played a lot of fullback. So
Not gonna lie, that was a little bit of a surprise that they let him go. I thought they were gonna. I thought of the tight ends that we had on our team, I thought they were going to keep him because he was that H-back guy that you could put him in the backfield or on the line, and he was capable. But apparently they have other stuff in mind because, I mean, they signed multiple tight ends, multiple fullbacks. So I got something in the works.
And the big tight end they signed is a blocker primarily, so they did get more toughness on that offensive line as well. And then, if you get to this position over the course of a season for any long stretch, you're in trouble anyway. But they did sign a backup quarterback, Jarrett Stidham.
What a signing. Jarrett Stidham as our backup quarterback. I was like, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, there's no way that happened. And I had to reread it. I'm like, wait, that's real. Okay. That's real. Really.
He can manage a game. I mean,
well, he beat us last year, so
right, yeah.
So I guess
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. He can win a football game for you. So
I don't know how impressive that is considering the offense we had last year, but he beat us. So there we go.
Right. So we do have a backup quarterback, and I'm sure they'll probably sign somebody to the practice squad.
Well, and they dropped Rippon, right? I read that correctly.
Yeah, Rippon's gone.
Yeah. So they'll probably pull someone off the pile of, maybe we'll sign Josh Rosen this year and be his fifth team.
I saw Rosen was getting looks in San Francisco, or was that Darnold?
That's where he was. He was in San Francisco.
He was in San Francisco. Yeah. And maybe it's Darnold that was getting looks in San Francisco.
That'd be wild.
Right.
That would be.
Boy, that
that
Hall of Fame 5 just keeps on trucking, don't they? It's Josh and the jabronis, except for Lamar.
That was such a weird draft class at this point. Now that we're 5 years out from it, it's like
Yeah.
wow, they thought this was a repeat of the 83 class. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, they missed that shot. They missed it.
Yeah.
Unless we're talking about
Yeah.
Eason and Boomer.
Well, Boomer was good.
He was good, but I'd say,
Boomer was good.
would you legitimately say that he's better than Baker?
Boomer Esiason?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Really?
100% absolutely better.
Let me say when Baker's at 100%, because obviously with his torn to
Absolutely.
shit shoulder.
Absolutely. He is 100% a better player and will always be a better player than Baker Mayfield. 100%, no doubt in my mind. Book it.
I don't know.
He had a long career, played in a Super Bowl, played at a high
That had
level.
nothing to do with him.
It had a lot to do with him. He was throwing the ball all over the yard.
I'm not trying to be mean to Boomer, but I out of that 83 class, he was definitely what, fourth or fifth tier.
Okay. I mean, if you look at 1, 2, and 3, fourth ain't too bad, right?
Because yeah, he'd have to be fourth because Eason would be fifth and Blackledge would not even be on the list. So
Right.
like, so I guess yeah, fourth isn't bad out of that list.
Right.
What's sad is I think Baker's fourth out of that list too. Wow, that's awful.
We can touch on that here in a minute because he's on the list later on. But yeah, that'll be fun to hash out. So those are the major signings so far. I'm sure there's still going to be some more depth players added, and they'll do some things. And after the draft for sure, Denver's always been good at least one UDFA making the team. So there's definitely some things.
Well, and I'm still wondering because we're about to talk about some of the losses, and I think there's a name that's not on this list that is going to be coming. And we've definitely mentioned him. We lost Draymond, we lost Mike Boone, Andrew Beck.
Mm-hmm. Calvin Anderson
is gone now. Some people we already dropped before that. Like I said, Edmonds was gone. What Williams as of today is gone.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't think we're keeping Court.
I think we are. If you haven't heard the reports, there have been reports that Denver is taking calls on trades for both Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. The report today from Mike Kliss was the asking price is very high. If you get Jerry, you get Court. Tim Patrick comes back. Who knows what he's going to look like a year after an ACL? That's always a touchy thing. It's like that second. You always wait to that second year, which Cortland's going to move into now. And KJ, that's a pretty good room with some pretty good weapons as long as they can stay healthy. I think Court was really struggling with coming back from the knee because that is such a hard thing to come back from, especially for a skill position.
Yeah, but his knees aren't in his hands, and he dropped a shitload of balls.
He dropped a few, yeah, but I mean it's all connected, right? I mean if you're not 100% healthy, and we saw it at the end of Demaryius Thomas's career, there was a time Demaryius's last year here where he couldn't turn left.
Oh yeah,
because his hip was so bad, and everyone was giving him crap about drops, and may or may not have been rightfully so. And I will die on the hill that Broncos country never appreciated Demaryius Thomas the way they should have, because that man was an absolute beast, a wonderful person in the community. And I've said it since day one. It had nothing to do with anything that's happened the last 2 years. I think Demaryius is legitimately the second best wide receiver, maybe the second or third best wide receiver we've ever had.
When it comes to on the field, is that what you're mentioning specifically?
The whole package. The whole package.
I'd say third.
All right, who's number one? Rod. Okay, who's number two?
This is going to piss people off. Brandon Marshall.
Yeah, that's not a bad call.
Brandon was an absolute monster, and if it wasn't for his unfortunate mental issues that he eventually did deal with,
yep, absolutely,
he was an absolute beast on the field, and he got screwed by Daniels.
Yeah, that would be a fun argument to have sometime, is to rank wide receivers, because Brandon Marshall is definitely in that conversation for sure. He was a lot of fun to watch, and I'm glad that he was able to get his mental health sorted out. And he's been very public with it, right?
Oh,
He's talked
very.
about
Ever
it,
since it
and
happened.
yeah,
Ever since he
been
figured
very
out what was going on.
yeah.
When he was
So
with Miami, I think, when he
yep,
finally started getting help.
yep, absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, it with back to Demarius, there
Mm.
were times he just, I mean, they never talked about his finger. Um, and that was another thing that
Oh,
was,
yeah.
yeah, he and if you ever listen to Andy Lindahl, go Mustangs, shout out to Andy Lindahl, Mullen class of 92, right after me. Demarius had a finger that went sideways because
Yes.
it got stuck in somebody's face mask because of all he was really good at the stiff arm, right? And
Oh,
so,
yeah.
I mean, try catching a ball with with that finger that way. And they never talked about it because they didn't ever want to give anybody anything to focus on, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, because if you know somebody's injured, what's going to happen? They're going to target that part. So,
Well, the reason I bring up Court is the inconsistencies last year, the rough year, obviously, before the injury, he had a rough year. He's only had really one solid year with us where you can say that guy is a, legitimate top 10 receiver. We're like, oh, yeah, that guy's dangerous. He hasn't been that. And with him, for some reason, had taken it to Twitter like they seem to do now and calling out the Broncos, seemingly saying, I want to be where I'm appreciated. That's the issue I'm talking about. Like, that seems to me that he's on his way out the door on his own accord.
well, he doesn't have a choice. He's under contract, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and let's be honest about the Twitter thing. They all do it now. It's
That's so annoying, though.
I know they all. It's the generation, right? They all take it to social media. They all, that they'll scrub the team from their Instagram and they'll post things like that. And somebody else did something similar this week, and I don't remember who it was. And it was a decent name player somewhere else. But it happens all the
I
time.
remember
I
what you're
mean,
talking about. I just can't
yeah,
think of
it
it
happens all
anymore.
the time. And Cortland's got a legitimate beef, right? He takes a lot of flack because he does have a pretty prominent online presence. He takes a lot of flack when he posts stuff. The Twitter keyboard warriors go at him because, to your point, he did not have a very good year. I'm going to take a little bit of an issue up until he got hurt that season. He was playing pretty well.
Well, and that's the reason I said he had one solid season, and then he had up until he got hurt. He was working on another solid season,
Yep, yep,
but
and
that
then
injury cut it
yep,
in half.
injury cut it in half, and then last year was the first year back.
Yeah,
And it's the general rule of thumb. There are very few Adrian Petersons out there who can come back from that kind of injury that fast. The general rule is it's the second year where you're finally back to 100%. You're good enough to play, but you're not good enough to play where you were. So I think this year with a different offense, uh, much more of a controlled situation where they're going to put people in positions to succeed. We all trust in what Sean Payton's going to do. I think you're going to see a really good year out of Cortland Sutton. I think you're going to see a great year out of Jerry Jeudy.
that's the one. And that's part of the concern. I don't want them to change Judy's role that he started having at the end of last year.
Right.
Because at the end of last year, he showed you why he was picked where he was picked and why he deserves that attention. Because you put him at the X and he is an absolute monster.
Yep. And to his credit, he's matured a lot. If the Russ thing would have happened in 21, I don't know that Jerry Jeudy would come out and have defended him unbidden. And that's the report, is that when Jerry Jeudy came out and said, "Hey, that's my quarterback. We're behind him all the way," and was public about it. I don't think Jerry does that in 21.
Probably not.
So I think this is a man who's coming into his own as a football player, a man who's coming into his own and figuring out not necessarily how to be a leader, but how to lead, and is really taking some cues from some of the older guys around him, and is he's going to have a good year. I'm really looking forward to what Jerry does. And I don't think it matters where they put him.
I think it does. I understand a lot of people, because he is an undersized guy, want to put him at the slot, but he's not a slot receiver. He's an outside receiver. That's what he's good at. That's what he's best at. He can make moves across the field from there better than he can from the slot.
But you can put, I don't think he would primarily play there, but I think if in a perfect world, so let's say you've got Patrick and Sutton on the outside. So you've got your two outside guys, and then you've got Jerry in the slot, but you can motion him outside. You can do a lot of things with him in that position that move him out of the slot spot where he can be an outside guy but start in the slot. And now you've got three outside receivers, and what do you do?
See, and I we can have this further debate, and because I do understand what you're saying. I like Patrick more at the slot. I think he is a slot receiver. I think he's very good at being a slot receiver, and I think he would actually it would be more beneficial to keep Patrick in the slot and then put Court in, if it is a Court and Judy on the outsides.
See, and then you got Hamler into the mix, who's really a true slot.
He's a true slot.
If he can stay healthy.
If he can stay healthy, yes.
Yeah. That'll be a debate for another day. All right. More notable news in the NFL, and it's too bad the Duchess isn't in the room. As you may or may not know, out there in Goon Squad land, she is a giant Green Bay Packers fan, and it sounds like it's all but a done deal that Aaron Rodgers, fresh out of his darkness retreat, before he even thinks about more ayahuasca, whatever that shit is that he was doing, is going to repeat history and is going to go to the Jets.
Yeah, the very notable on yesterday on the Pat McAfee show, where they doubled their highest concurrent viewership ever with the Aaron Rodgers announcement that he, while it has not been officially traded yet, is basically certain to be going to the Jets as long as they figure out the mechanics of the deal between them and the Packers.
What do you think it's going to take? 2 1s?
I don't think they're going to get 2 1s. Aaron is an amazing quarterback, but he is on the outside edge of his quarterbacking at this point. He's got a few more years. If he ends up being like Brady, then he's got 5 more years. But I don't think they're going to be able to squeeze 2 1s. I think you're going to get a 1 and a pair of 2s and probably some player consideration. If I had to bet on it.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think there's got to be a 1 in there somewhere, but
there has to be at least 1.
Yeah, because I don't know that anyone's convinced that Aaron's going to play more than just this next year. And that's been the dance for the last 3 years, right?
Exactly.
So they're not going to sell the farm and then be stuck with nothing. So,
yeah, this is a 1 to, I'd say, outside chance of 3 years, but you're renting him for a championship. That's what this is. They think they have everything else they need, and they just need the quarterback that can get them there.
If he gets 3 years, steak dinner's on me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying probably 2.
Yeah. And I think 2's iffy. I think it's 50-50 for 2.
Only reason I'm saying 2 is because they want to give him, and he's probably going to want at least a couple shots at it just to prove that he still has it.
Right. But the difference is the media focus in New York is 180 degrees different from what he's ever seen before.
Well, and what he caught in Wisconsin was a lot still.
Yeah. Now wait till he throws, 3 picks in a game against New England and then has to answer that media, because those guys are ruthless.
Yeah. But yeah, that was the big news that everyone was kind of waiting on, that he apparently made this decision. Well, we say he made this decision, but based on what he said, Green Bay made this decision for him, and he's just going with it. And that was as of Friday.
Yeah, I
So
think he may have said that. I think this is all him forcing his way out, and he's been trying to do this for a while. He's always been one trying to control the narrative, and I think this is he wants to look like he's the good guy, and who knows? You're right over there, bud.
yeah, I just dropped my one part of my my little rig here. Got bounced off apparently. Um,
Uh,
yeah, but yeah, based on what he was saying, they went silent on him after his darkness retreat, apparently in Green Bay. That's what he said. I
right.
have no idea.
I don't believe anything that he says. I
I,
don't
I
believe a word that comes out of his mouth, especially when it concerns the story around where and how he plays.
I kind of agree with you. I think that I don't think he was pushing his way out until this year. I think he was considering it for the last couple of years, but he just kind of saw that the writing was on the wall at this point. If he wants out, he needs to get out now.
Yeah, yeah. More quarterback news. We've got a couple other to touch on. The Lamar Jackson saga continues. Tank, there's been some reports that he may go to Washington, maybe.
Which would be a wild move at this point, wouldn't it? I mean, that seems like it wouldn't happen just because the issues that they're having over there, and why would you want to step into that? But I guess if they can pay him the money he's asking, then you take that chance, I guess.
Right. And I don't know if you saw the report today. It's been reported that the Snyders have cleared out of the Commanders building in advance of a sale that's sooner rather than later. So old Danny Boy and his wife are no longer in the building, according to news reports today. I think I saw it on Rappaport's Twitter.
I believe you're correct about that. It seems
Right.
like they're out the door. But as far as I know, they still haven't narrowed down their consideration for who's buying the team. So that's interesting.
Right.
It's
I mean,
interesting that the ownership is clearing out. So I'm assuming they have somebody in place to run that team.
right.
But we have, as a general public, have no clue who that is currently.
I don't think we've known. I mean, we've known who's been running the team, but we really don't know what the hell.
No, we don't know
doing.
who's going to be running it now. It was obviously Dan, even when his wife was in control.
Right.
But at this point, with neither of them in the building,
Right.
we don't know who is supposedly running the team
Right.
at this point.
So let me throw a hypothetical at you. Let's say he does go to Washington. Does that automatically make Washington the favorite in the NFC East?
No, because I still think it's the Eagles. Even with what they lost this year, they have such a dynamic team, and they have enough skill players that are still there, and they have the good offensive line there that they could fit people in around it and still make it the more dominant team in that division.
Solid call. All right, let's move on to more quarterback stuff. And Raiders fans,
Praise Jeebus.
we have to sell you again. We fucking told you so.
I didn't know which one it was going to be. I thought they were going to keep Jarrett, to be honest. But
right, McDipshit's out here doing McDipshit stuff.
McDaniels went fishing in the same pond again and pulled out Jimmy Jesus.
Yep. That's not an upgrade, Raider Nation. I hate
that
to
is
tell
a
you.
very lateral move at best.
At absolute best. Absolute best.
Nothing against Jimmy. He is a great game manager quarterback, but he is not a franchise changer.
He is a good game manager quarterback.
Yeah, he's not a franchise changer.
Yeah. He's better than anything they had in San Francisco for sure, right? I think that the Trey
Sadly,
Lance thing,
yes.
Yeah. I don't think Trey Lance is the guy either. And you know,
Brock Purdy's their best quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're gonna find out for sure, right? I mean,
well, I don't know who's going to be starting next year because both of them are injured.
Yeah, everybody's hurt, so we'll see what they do. Who knows? But yeah, and then he turned around and they traded Darren Waller.
Which, what the hell? You're going to bring in the quarterback and trade away probably legitimately his best threat on the team, minus Devontae Adams, obviously.
Yeah.
But he's their second best threat. Hunter is a great little receiver sometimes.
He's a possession guy.
Roberts is a decent receiver most of the time. But that would no Darren Waller was by far your second best option on that
And
offense.
and he may, I mean, from a pure production standpoint, you're right about Devontae. He's the best receiver in the league, right? Especially when he's got um,
Depends on
ample
who's
quarter.
throwing them the
Yeah,
ball.
yeah. It's a dependent position.
We're
But
about to find out how good he really is.
right, oh shit,
So,
right. But from a pure talent standpoint, Waller's the most talented guy in that receiving core. I mean, just the way he runs, the way he runs his routes, and he can play and play in the running game. There were some uh, reports and some rumblings about when Derek Carr was calling people out in the locker room, he was calling out Waller. And there were some, I've heard some national people say that um, that the Raiders were not happy that Waller didn't play when he was hurt, that they thought he could have played. And that is the reason why. I don't know if that's maybe the Raiders trying to spin it. Um,
even if that's the Raiders trying to spin it, I will always respect the player that says, "Hey, I'm not ready to go," and
absolutely.
actually means it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that
Get your
that culture needs to change, right?
Yeah,
That
protect yourself, especially in
mhm,
this league where they are going to use you until they can squeeze every ounce out of you.
mhm,
Get your bag, make
right,
your decisions for you.
right,
Not that's how you have to live it.
right. And we've talked a bunch about what the Nuggets did with Jamal Murray. It's especially last year when they just didn't push it, and they wanted
Mhm.
him fully ready to come back because it's more about the long term. And with Waller, it's about the long term. I mean,
Exactly.
he's a
This
younger
guy's
guy.
got another decade in him if you
Yeah,
treat him right.
right. And I don't know. I have zero reports. I have zero information about this,
Mhm.
but I don't. I, if I'm Darren Waller and I've got the history that I have, and we all know about the prevalence of shots and painkillers
Oh,
and
yeah.
all of the things that go into playing in the NFL. If I'm Darren Waller and I have my own history, because he's a well reported history of addiction, right? It's
Mhm.
what he had to recover from to get to where he is.
Yeah.
If I'm Darren Waller and that's on the table, I'm staying away from
Oh,
it,
yeah,
right?
you're not
Because
gonna be
it's
doing the tour at all. It
no,
you know,
absolutely not. Uh, I mean,
which is
it's
basically just liquid bliss for 24 hours.
yeah, absolutely,
You know,
absolutely. So mad respect to the guy if that's what actually happened, right? Again, I
seemingly that is what happened.
right that's what I think.
Yeah.
Um, whatever.
And especially risking yourself for the team that's not going anywhere,
Right.
that's not doing anything to
Hmm.
actually improve, you know? You some for some reason went with the retread of McDaniels as your quarterback or your coach, you know, and you're actively forcing your only star player in the last decade besides Khalil Mack out the door with Carr, you know, you're like,
Hmm.
I wouldn't really be risking myself for them either.
Absolutely not. The Raiders just got to keep being Raiders.
Mhm.
Love to see it. Uh, more news: the Dallas Cowboys have ended the Ezekiel Elliott era. I can't say that I disagree. I think that they relied on Zeke far too much. I think they had and still have a much more dynamic, much more productive runner in Tony Pollard, who showed it every time he got a chance to touch the football. And running backs, and we've said it before, that career path is a short one.
For most people, yeah. Very few make it past that 5 to 6 year mark,
Mhm.
even if they are on the high side of being a dynamic runner. So uh, that is probably though the most surprising move for me personally, just because I thought they were so attached to him that there was no chance they were getting rid of him.
Well, and the old adage is, don't tell me who you are, show me who you are. And they
Yeah,
showed us all year that they were attached to Zeke. Like
yeah, exactly.
everyone could see that Pollard was the better player, but they just kept
They
Zeke,
went with Zeke
yeah,
every
all
single
the
time.
time. And now it's over.
Yeah, I'm wondering who got up and uh, Jerry's ass to make that decision come through, because that's all it had. I guarantee that's what it was. It
Mhm.
came down to Jerry saying, "All right, we got to cut bait at
Well,
this."
yeah, nothing happens in that team unless Jerry stamps it, right?
And I'm wondering who that sounding board was that came through for him on that one.
I bet you it was his son. I bet you it was Steven.
It was Steve. That's the
Yeah,
most likely candidate,
yeah,
definitely.
bet you it was Steven because it sure as hell wasn't wasn't the coach.
No, he's a giant puss who does whatever he's told.
Yeah, he's terrible.
He somehow shenanigan the Super Bowl
Yeah.
and has been writing off of that since.
Mm-hmm. More moves of note. The Kansas City Chiefs lost one of their most productive wide receivers. Juju Smith-Schuster goes to the Patriots. How do you think the TikTok thing's going to play with old Grumpy Bill?
I think it's not going to happen, and I think this Juju thing's going to be interesting.
Right.
Is this going to be like Antonio with the Patriots?
Well, I don't know if that comp is necessarily right. He's not. He's nowhere
not as
near the
bad.
head case. He's nowhere near the head case. He's
Not
just a
as
more.
bad, yes.
He's just a more. He's got a more public face than what you've seen in New England.
Yeah, he's kind of a diva, though. He has a very diva side to him.
You have to be a receiver, I think, in some respects, right? I mean, you've got to demand the ball. And Juju, if you remember, Juju would ride his bike to practice when he was in Pittsburgh, and
exactly.
He's a little bit grounded. He does have the TikTok thing, and he's got the dance thing, and he does a lot of goofy stuff. I think a lot of it's harmless. I don't know that in a lot of organizations, it probably wouldn't be a big deal, but he's going to New England.
Exactly. Where they're notoriously not willing to listen to bullshit.
Right. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I think you're right. It's going to be so interesting to see how it all plays out.
I'm wondering if the year in KC grounded him a little bit, because seemingly he wasn't as outspoken and outlandish as he was at the end of his tenure in Pittsburgh with KC last year. So, and I think KC let go Juju for the same, hey, we can do it with basically any receivers as long as we have Kelsey.
They know that they can just plug somebody in, right? It's as long as they get decent production and just ride the Kelsey train as long as they can.
Yeah, and they have Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore there to fill that space, seemingly.
Right. Well, they would hope so. I don't know that either one of them have demonstrated that they're consistent enough.
Consistent, no, but they do have those flashes of brilliance.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Talent-wise, they're out of this world. More interesting news, and I should have thrown this into the quarterback group, but we talked a little bit about Baker Mayfield. Baker's the Buccaneer.
Yeah, what the fuck happened there?
I don't know.
Because I did not think that was going to be a thing. Did they just say, you know what, we're stripping away the parts anyway, let's just sign somebody?
Yeah. There's two ways they're going with this. One, they needed a backup because they didn't have anybody. Is Baker the heir apparent? Is he gonna?
Who would the other starter be?
Jim Jabroni. I don't even know what the guy's name is.
If I remember correctly, Mike Glennon is the backup there.
Oh, is Glennon still there? I don't remember if he's there or not.
No, wait. Are they the ones that picked up Kyle Trask?
Yeah, it was Kyle Trask. That's him.
Kyle Trask.
Yeah. I think Glennon's coaching somewhere.
But seemingly if the quarterbacks you have on your bench are no longer including Tom Brady and nobody knows who the backup is, then seemingly Baker's the starter, I guess.
Baker's going to start for his 5th NFL team.
Which, wow, I don't even know what to say, honestly. He did okay at certain times with everybody he's played for.
Baker's problem is he's Johnny Manziel without the alcohol problem. He's a head case. He's not big.
It doesn't help that he has a jacked up shoulder at this point too.
I mean, you keep pointing at the shoulder, and
I think
that
there's permanent
definitely
damage from
that
him playing that second half of that year. I think there is permanent damage in his shoulder that
I
he's
doubt
playing
that.
with.
I doubt that. I think it's a lot more to do with his head, right? Way more upstairs. I don't think they sign him unless they checked him out, right? And if they were going to bring him in, there are quarterbacks that you can find to bring in, right? There's people
Are
out there.
there?
Jimmy G was available. Would you rather have Jimmy G or Baker Mayfield?
Jimmy.
There you go.
But
Would you
wasn't
rather?
Jimmy signed before Baker? I think Jimmy was signed before Baker was.
Yeah, he was available. Like,
Yeah.
if you really wanted a quarterback, you could have had a solid NFL starter. Instead, you're
Well,
stuck with Captain Headcase.
until very recently, I was on the assumption that Jimmy was going to the Jets up until that Aaron Rodgers issue happened.
Right.
So, but it does make you wonder, why are they taking the shot on Baker but not offering up a deal for, Lamar, who's
Mm-hmm.
in the market right now?
Right. Yeah. Lamar's there. Just going to take 2 number ones. Sign the deal. Pay him $1 more than the contract says. There you go.
No, I don't think he'd be playing if you give him $1 more.
No,
I
you get what
he'd
I'm
want
saying.
about $12 million a year more than what that contract says currently.
Yeah, you get what I mean. Though. Like, they don't have to come over the top a whole bunch. He's not going to get Deshaun money. No one's going to get Deshaun money unless they're an absolute.
I think Burrow's going to get Deshaun money.
Yeah, he might. Yeah, like I said, like I was going to say, unless you're an absolute bona fide certified stud. Your Allens, your Mahomes, your Burrows.
I think
those guys.
in near future,
Herbert,
Trevor Lawrence, if he keeps
Trevor
going the way that
Lawrence,
he's going.
yep. If he continues on it, Herbert, I think, is in that class. But Lamar's not going to get that.
Probably not. Even, and it sucks to say it because at this point, because of the, like you said, the injury issue, God, he earned that money those first few years.
Mm-hmm.
He did everything he damn well could to make that team win.
Yep.
And they proved last year that he was the reason that team wins based on what happened last year.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as he got injured, they lost their ass.
Yep.
So, God, it's such just a douchebag move in Baltimore right now.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I get why they don't want to give him that top tier quarterback money just because of the health issue, right? And we've said it before on the show. Running quarterbacks do not have a long life in the NFL. And he is primarily a running quarterback.
Well, and that was also built around him running. At what point in time did he have a dynamic receiver? He had Hollywood Brown, who was good, but he was never a top 10 receiver. He was never even I'd even say he was never even a top 20 receiver.
He had a top 3 tight end.
Yeah, but you can't throw to just the tight end all damn day. I know that works in Patrick's case, but they also have a better play caller over there than they do in Baltimore. Right. He's not working with, who was it? Roman was his OC?
Yeah, he's had a couple.
But like you said, most recently, wasn't it Greg Roman is the OC over there?
Yeah.
Would you put him anywhere near Andy Reid and his ability to call an
offense?
Not.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
Of course not.
So
but these NFL coaches are smart, and you build around what the skill set is, right? So the skill set with Lamar coming out of college is he's an absolute cheat code in open space. You can't catch him. You can't get your hands on him. More so now, or less so now than when he came out of college. But he is such a threat in the running game. How many years has he been the leading rusher? Just because that's what they designed, because that's his skill set. Like you play to your strengths, and that was his strength.
I think 4 out of the last 5, he was the leading rusher as a quarterback.
Right.
Up until last year with Fields.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see how far that gets him. All right. Is there anybody else we need to talk about in the NFL?
Any big ones? I'm interested to see what happens with Eckler, but I don't think anything's happened yet.
Yeah, if you hadn't heard, Austin Eckler has asked to be able to pursue a trade. We'll see if anything comes from that. He is Austin Eckler, Colorado's own,
Western.
Touchdown, yeah, Western touchdown machine. He had 19 scores last year, or 18 last year, and 19 the year before that. I mean, the man's just and pound for pound, maybe one of the strongest guys in the league.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, LA. You may want to try to figure out how to keep that guy happy because he's
But what are they going to do in the other? If they don't have a running game, that I don't see. Justin Herbert is a dynamic playmaking quarterback when he can, but if you don't have a running game with that offense, God, that's going to take a deep dive off a cliff, I think.
Mm-hmm. And well, when your head coach is a toolbox.
Well, yeah, he's an absolute idiot, but
right.
that doesn't help anything for sure. But based on the moves this offseason, I mean, without doing much of anything, that looks like the Raiders and Chargers want to start losing again, apparently.
Right. And Tank, I don't know if you've seen it or not. Before we move into the NBA, looks like we have someone in the green room ready to join us.
Oh, let me pop on over. There he is.
There he is.
What's going on?
What is up?
What's happening, guys?
Hey, what's going on, buddy?
Oh, just another day,
How was the show?
What's that?
How was the show?
We ended up not going. The reason being is both the Duchess and I have had stomach issues all week. So rather than go and sit in the middle, because our seats are so good, they're right in the middle, like stage center. Rather than sit in those seats and try to excuse ourselves every now and again, we thought we would stay.
Oh, that's why you wear a garbage bag around your butt.
Shit goes out the butt.
Get back into life with Depends.
That was we were just listening to that song from Book of Mormon, so I've got it stuck in my head now.
Got it.
Looks like I missed a lot. I'm looking at you're right there where it says anybody else.
Yeah, yes. We were just getting ready to move into the NBA.
Okay, let's do it then.
Do you have anything else to say about NFL free agency?
No, I'm sure you guys covered it with very many words.
We did.
Oh yeah,
there was a lot. I mean,
there was a lot to get through.
Yeah,
50 an hour in.
Yeah, 54 minutes of NFL talk.
Yeah,
but there was a lot. I mean, it's that week.
Fine. I was just saying,
week, right? We had to do a lot of it.
I was hopeful that you had gotten through a lot of it.
Well, moving on to the NBA, up until about an hour and a half ago, the Nuggets were on an amazing struggle bus with their longest losing streak of the season. They had lost 4 in a row, and against really not great teams. Mark, I'll start with you. It just looks like they couldn't play defense.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry about that.
Was that for me or for Tank?
Yes, that was you.
Okay.
Yeah, you.
I
make noise.
We definitely watched the last part of that game, and you could see when the Nuggets kind of turned the corner there, and like at the end of the third, it was Jamal and the second stringers in there, and finally seemed to like something clicked, and then they brought Joker and the group back in to finish out the game, and they just went on a run. You're gonna have downtimes like this in an NBA season. It's kind of weird that the Nuggets have not lost 4 games in a row all year. They've never done it before this year. So, that was their longest losing streak. I'm glad they have one of those now under their belt so they know what it feels like and how to rebound from it. I think, honestly, fellas, I think that was a good thing that they had this 4-game losing streak and a little bit of adversity. It's just going to bring them closer, and they're going to have to find different ways to win now.
Mark brings up a good point. I'm going to add a little bit to it and then throw it over to you. I think it is a good thing they had the losing streak, but I think it's better that they ended it.
Very true. And I think Coach called them out perfectly. They were getting soft. They were thinking that they were already, guaranteed. They were already the incumbent, guaranteed the championship, and they started playing a little too soft. And that's on both the first line and second line with that team. I think that they were playing too soft the last few games, and a kick in the teeth is what was needed.
They got it.
Yep, they did. And they definitely needed to figure out how to play defense a little bit better than they had. When they played Toronto, Toronto scored 49 points in the first quarter.
That was aggressive. Yeah.
Toronto's been in the league for 35 years, and that's their biggest quarter ever. And
that was embarrassing. They don't have any good players either.
Right.
No, they really don't.
Right. And it was good back and forth against Detroit tonight. That's not a very good Detroit team, as everybody knows. But it was a good
sidebar
game.
On that. Did you notice how empty the stadium was?
No, I didn't see the game.
Oh my God, there was nobody there.
It's gross. Yeah.
We have Comcast. So we were at the restaurant watching it, eating dinner, and I don't think the front rows were even half full. Like the very front row around was half full.
Wow.
It was awful.
Right.
Weird thing in the palace.
Yeah. The palace.
It's not the palace.
I know. It's always going to be the palace to me.
Oh, always. Yeah.
Well, if it was the palace, they'd still be a good defense.
Right. So they did stop the slide. There are 12 games left to play. They're 5 games ahead of both the Kings and the Grizzlies. Tank, over to you first. I don't fear the Grizz at all now with their issues. I don't see the Kings being able to put together. I mean, in order for them to catch up, they're probably going to have to win 9 of 12 in order to catch up, and Denver's going to have to go on another slide. I think that they've about got the number 1 seed wrapped up.
I would have to agree. Is there any chance that Ja gets back for the playoffs?
Well, hold on a minute. Yes. You guys saw the suspension announcement, right?
I didn't see the official thing. No.
Yeah. He got 8 games, and it's retroactive back to when he missed games. So he's served 6 of the 8 games. He's probably going to be back in uniform on Monday.
I was going to say he'll be back next week. Yeah.
It's an embarrassment.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I can't believe that they only gave him 8 games for that.
Right. Yeah.
All of that bullshit.
Right.
That's rough. That's surprising, to be honest. Well,
every time they put a suspension out there for something like this, which is like clearly endangering yourself and people around you, or just being a bad guy doing bad things.
Which part? The assault, the menacing, or the second menacing?
All of it. It's still, and I would put that, and this is going to be kind of a maybe not a hot take, but I'm sure somebody will think it is. I still feel bad for Calvin Ridley. Like that guy he got a year for gambling, and these guys are like punching women and like throwing
guns at teenagers and
like beating the shit out of fucking high schoolers and getting not even 10 games worth. And Calvin Ridley, it cost him a year in his prime.
Right. Well, there's 2 things there. One, it's 2 different leagues. And Goodell swings a much bigger hammer than Adam Silver ever will. And 2, you can't gamble on your sport. You just can't, right? I mean, you can compare the severity of the infraction taken in a vacuum.
What I'm doing.
Right. You can do that.
That's what I'm doing. I'm going to.
Right. But when you do something that could impact the integrity of the game itself, taking away all the bullshit that happens off the court, when you do something that impacts the integrity of the sport, the leagues are always going to swing a much larger hammer, regardless of if it was $1,500 or if you flash a gun at Shotgun Willies.
Well, and notoriously NBA has a much better players association than the NFL. So the players do kind of run that league.
It is a players league.
So that part's not surprising.
You guys are putting too much logic in this. It's just these guys are assholes and they don't deserve to play.
Oh, no, I'm not stepping on your toes. I'm saying the reason that he only got the 8
No,
games.
I understand why he
yeah.
only got it, but it's
Right.
still bullshit.
Oh yeah, 100% bullshit. If you
Yeah,
if you have a
absolutely.
guy that has that many criminal acts,
We're not talking about one incident here, guys.
no,
This
this is
is
multiple incidents.
Yes.
But all of him trying to portray this tough guy thing that he definitely doesn't have.
I get all
Yeah.
the logic behind it and the this and that and the politics of it, but it's still
Mhm.
bullshit.
Right.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Side note, did you guys see how much money he blew at shotguns that night?
Yes. He tipped
$50,000.
$50,000.
50
No,
grand.
50K was the tip.
Yeah.
That was it was 50K in tips. Was what shot. They didn't say how much he spent, but he dropped
No.
50K in tips.
Yep.
Yeah, his spending apparently was higher than that. They don't have an exact number, but it was
No, and I know those folks. They wouldn't share that bit. I don't even know how they got to the tip amount, but
because they'll lose business if they share that amount. That's a problem.
well,
I'm sure it has something to do with legality of what they can and can't release.
right.
Trying to protect the integrity of their customers, so he comes back.
That's what I think it is. I don't think it
Right.
has anything to do with integrity,
Right.
but making sure that their consumer returns to consume, I think, is the big thing. there.
Oh yeah,
and future consumers especially, not
Exactly.
maybe not necessarily that guy, but future consumers for sure.
Yeah.
Back to the Nuggets. One of the big complaints, especially in the last 4.5 games, has been the bench rotation and they've been trying to figure out what to do, how to do it. Mark, we really were excited about the additions of Reggie and Bryant Taylor, but they just have not been playing all that great.
not even terrible.
Yeah. But I'll ask you, when you get into the playoffs, obviously the bench shortens. So is the bench rotation that big of a deal by the time the playoffs start?
No, I still think they're the one of the deepest teams going into the playoffs right now. Their top 8 is better than any other top 8 in the NBA. The Celtics may be close as far as a top 8, but that's all you use. You don't hardly ever get to your 9th and 10th player, except for 5-6 minutes a game, maybe to your 9th and 10th player. But that like you said, that rotation shortens. I think that they're set up for a long run. As long as they can, God forbid, keep everyone off the injury report, they'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Tank, what do you think?
I agree with the second half of that statement. I think that they are one of the deeper teams heading into the playoffs. I do not agree with the first half. I think it is incredibly important that our top 3 on the bench are playing good coming off the bench.
Yeah, but it's not the
Going
top
into the
3 that's the problem. It's the whole unit.
Well, and that's the problem, though. But if it is the whole unit, that's still a problem. You need rotation during the playoffs.
Yeah, but you don't get
What
there.
we got into last year.
Yeah, the problem last year is they got wore out and Joker got wore out, right? He was playing 40.5 minutes a game with really no help because there wasn't any. When you get your top 5 out there and then you sub in the next 3 guys when you get into the playoffs, they only go 8 or 9 deep in the playoffs. That's all there is. So
Yeah.
who is it? It's Christian Brown.
Yep.
It's who else have we thrown in there? Mark.
It's probably going to have to be Reggie.
No. He's too far on the depth list. Don't make me Google the Nuggets roster right now.
Hey, you're the one who said they were the best top 8 in the league. So.
I did, and you guys agreed with it.
I agree that they have one of the deeper teams, yes, but what I'm wondering is who.
Bruce Brown.
Yes.
He's been great.
Yep.
DeAndre Jordan, he's great. Jeff Green?
Uncle Jeff. There you go.
Maybe.
There's your 3 right there.
Yeah.
Reggie Jackson, he's there, but he doesn't do much. Thomas Bryant is there, but you don't need him that much.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you need right there. You'll be fine. DeAndre Gordon, I'm good with it.
DeAndre Gordon.
Jordan. Yeah.
Jordan. Oh, I was going to say. Ooh.
I say Gordon, sorry.
That's all right.
Aaron Gordon? Yeah, I agree. So the problem is, do we have another big guy to be in there?
DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah, it's DeAndre. DeAndre is your backup center.
All right.
Jeff Green plays power forward. What's he, 6'8", something like that?
Well, then
Yeah.
what was then they just need to play tougher on defense, I guess. That's
Yeah.
my issue. We need to
Yep.
and your rotational guys do count there on defense. You need to be able to slow down runs if someone's getting in a run and you have to sit your starters for a little bit.
Right, but they're not all going to sit in the playoffs at the same time.
I understand that completely, but we're going with assuming the idea that we're going top 8, not top 5, right?
You saw what is going to be the equivalent of their backups playing with Jamal Murray tonight, all on the floor at the same time, cruising into the end of the third and to start the fourth. That's plenty of team. It's not going to be like all 5. It's not in hockey where they're all in a line together and they come in and out, all that kind of stuff.
Well, no.
You'll have Joker take a minute off here or there in the second quarter. You'll have Jamal take part of the first quarter off. You'll have, you'll have your guys come in and out. So you don't need a full barrage of dudes coming in and out. They just have to play well together. So that a lot of what I think they're going to be doing in the next couple of weeks is letting these guys all play amongst each other so that they get comfortable with each other, not just as a starting 5 and a backup 5, but as a group of 8 or 9 guys.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm that's what my main concern is.
I'm comfortable with
Not just those top 5 guys, the extra 3 to 4 guys that also need to be able to trust them to come in.
Yeah, but if there's 2 or 3
still play.
starters on the floor, those guys will play up to their standards.
Hopefully.
But when you have all 5 of those guys in at the same time, it's obviously not going to be the skill that you have with 5 starters.
And it hasn't been, right? When the second unit has come in all season long, they have not been good.
All season shit. The last 4 or 5 years, every time they put the second unit in, they lose a lead.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what we saw, specifically the last 4 games leading into tonight when they won. And even in tonight's game a little bit, you saw that where
they just had a slow start.
They soften up too much at certain points and they just somehow give up leads.
Yeah, but it's the second 5 that's doing it. The starters will go out and they'll be up 3.
Tonight,
the bench comes in, they're down 7.
The starters all came out cold, or the starters came out cold.
They came out slow today, and they came out weak today.
The second unit actually helped pull them back in, but it was Jamal and 4 guys. It wasn't the entire starting unit.
Yeah, I think Jamal, from all reports, looked much better tonight than he has. The knee soreness has been a concern. Now, to be honest, it's not the surgically repaired knee; it's the other one. So it's just soreness that he has been dealing with, and that's something that's just going to happen with a professional athlete. But I think Mark's spot on. When you start rotating through 8 guys in the playoffs, and at any given time you've got Joker, AG, KCP,
Aaron Gordon,
Reggie, and Aaron Gordon.
And they're going to need. And the only issue is, I agree with you guys completely. The only issue is we're going to be running into probably 1 or 2 teams that what is their entire game plan? It's not defensive. They're going to pour buckets on you until you can't keep up.
But that doesn't happen in the playoffs. The playoffs the playoffs is a totally different game. It's
not with Golden State. That's exactly what Golden State does. They come in and they
play a really good half-court game.
Yeah, they play a really good half-court pick-and-roll game. Their Golden State's thing is they shoot really well and always have shot really well. They don't run. They don't run a lot.
No, and that's not what I'm saying though. They're going to bury you under points, and we need defensively. We need to be able to slow that kind of a thing down.
Golden State worries me very little.
Golden State worries me all the time because that team can just out of nowhere score 100.
And you're 1 knee away from that team being a 0-4 team at this point. Like one of those guys hurts themselves, and it's all over for the whole team. They don't care at all.
Clay is a shell.
They're going to be playing Memphis, so they're going to win that series. If
I don't care who Memphis plays; they're not getting out of the first round. And I've said it before.
Yeah.
They do not play a style that is conducive to the playoffs. That ISO run and gun ball does not play well in the playoffs, and they're going to figure that out real quick.
I'm wondering how Sacramento is going to end up because they don't have a huge superstar roster, obviously, but they play very well as a team.
Yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. It's going to be interesting. All right, it's enough about the bench and arguing about that shit.
Okay.
Other thing I wanted to touch on about the Nuggets, the MVP odds have adjusted. Now, I don't know that tonight's game has had any impact on the odds yet, but based on the last 4 games, Embiid is now plus 100, Joker's plus 160, and Giannis is plus 370. So there has been a change.
Well, and in reality, it's been Embiid and Joker all season. I know there were other players. Giannis was obviously always been one of those, and what's his face from the Celtics?
Tatum.
Tatum, thank you. Has always was one of the front runners going into this season, but Doncic is always considered toward it, but he's usually sitting at the last few years he's been sitting at that.
He's
4 or 5 spot.
always a preseason favorite, though,
and that's just because he pours the points on.
Right.
He does it. He's a dynamic scorer, and you can't. That's going to get you some news no matter what.
Right.
But this whole season, it's been Embiid or Joker.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
with the slide from the Nuggets and Joker having a little dip in his overall contribution,
Plus the race conversation coming up.
God, that was such a. I'm hoping that's not what influenced the
You don't think it did?
bounce. I don't think it was.
No, they
I think
lost
that's
4 in
the
a row.
intent.
That's what did
They
it.
lost 4 games in a row, and Joker, while still being really good, you lose 4 games in a row late in the season. That's going to
Mhm.
impact your
Absolutely.
voting.
You don't think those MVP voters have swung one way or another just basically because of Kendrick Perkins?
No, because
absolutely
Kendrick
not. Who
Perkins
listens
isn't-
to Kendrick Perkins?
No one's
A lot of
listening.
people. He's
That-
on ESPN
That
almost
is
every day.
that
Yeah,
is
a lot
the
of-
hottest, garbagest take you have ever spewed. That
It's the
MVP
truth, though.
voters listen. No, it is not. It
You
is
don't
the
think it
furthest-
is? You're not
No,
paying
of course
attention.
not.
I
I am
think-
paying attention. You're not paying attention.
Nobody pays attention to Kendrick Perkins. That's all anybody talked about for the entire week that
Yeah,
happened.
but the whole thing with that was they
Nobody
called
pays
out
attention
Kendrick
to
Perkins
Kendrick
for his
Perkins.
bullshit. That was the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, everyone came out and said that's a terrible take.
Not
It's
everyone
awful.
said that it.
Most-
No, but the conversation was had, and you know how
Yes.
reporters are.
Well,
It's just-
here's the issue, though, because making it into that race issue is very unfortunate. But the reality is, Embiid and Joker have been 1 and 2 all season. So the fact that Embiid slides ahead of him after a skid from the Nuggets, I don't think that can be attributed to Kendrick Perkins' line of bullshit, because everyone
whatever you
has
said.
already admitted that Embiid is probably one of the top 3 players in the league.
No,
Well, not probably. He absolutely is.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm done.
No, and I get what you're saying, but I don't think it had as much of an influence as the Nuggets just sliding in for the last week. I think that played more of a role than Kendrick Perkins talking out his ass.
But
2
you're
weeks
saying
ago.
nothing happened because of
Oh
that?
no, there's probably some. There was probably a little bit of sway.
Matt's over here saying nobody listens to Kendrick Perkins.
I didn't say nobody. I said almost nobody.
Matt said
I said nobody listened to Kendrick Perkins.
that's all anybody talked about for 4 days.
Okay,
But-
so
There's also
everybody reacted to Kendrick Perkins. No one takes him seriously. Let me rephrase it.
Are
Yeah,
you sure?
I'm absolutely certain.
I don't think
Absolutely
that's
certain. What did Stephen A. Smith say? Did he agree with him? Did he agree? Because we all know Stephen A., Michael Wilbon, those other guys who are respected journalists on ESPN did
Okay.
not agree.
That's fine. That
Let's
they're not the
slow
only
roll
voters. There's not 3
Stephen A.
voters.
Smith on the respected thing. That's been a couple years since then. But he's always been Embiid's pocket, so I don't know if that would have influenced him at all. There's East Coast bias all over that for Embiid. He's going to get the East Coast bias no matter what. So if he
Right.
plays even a little bit better than Jokic for any amount of time, they're immediately going to be switching the votes.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've been talked. That's been since day one of this podcast. I've talked
Exactly.
about
Yeah, that's a real thing for
Yeah.
sure. And again, it's a 4-game swing, and that's what caused it. 'Cause
And
No, and I
that's
think
the
it'll even
worst
out.
take I've ever had was Kendrick Perkins might have swayed some votes.
yeah, absolutely. That's
No.
the worst. Yeah.
There's
It's
no way that's
absolutely
gonna
not
happen.
the worst take I've ever had. I've had way worse takes than that.
I've had way worse
I-
takes
I-
than that.
I can't. I can't think of any. So
Yeah. Okay. What did you have for lunch yesterday? May have my point exactly.
give me a second. I'll come up with it. What did I have for lunch yesterday? I had a salad.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, you asked me. All right, moving on to the Avalanche. After a fun game today, but they seem to have well in hand and then got really close there at the end. They are now third in the division, only 2 points back of the Wild with one in hand. They've won 7 of their last 11. They're 7-3-1. Boys, they look like they're bringing it all together. What do you think, Mark?
I'm going to stick with if they can't get the captain back, they're not going to do what we want them to do. This season comes and goes as Gabe Landeskog gets on the ice. That's all there is to it. They may be in a surge of wins, whatever, talk about your momentum that everyone talks about. If they don't have Gabe Landeskog, they're not going to win. They're just not going to win in the playoffs. That's all.
So without Landeskog, how deep do they go?
I can't put a number on it, but they're not getting to the Stanley Cup final.
Okay, that's legitimate.
That's a disappointing season for them if they don't get to the Stanley Cup final this year.
With all the injuries,
if you're putting the caveat of with all the injuries, then it's not as disappointing. But for the returning Stanley Cup champions with the full roster coming back, basically minus 1 or 2 guys, it's just a disappointing end to that season. And if they don't have Gabe Landeskog, they're not going to win.
Tank, what do you think?
I agree, obviously, with we need Landy back. I'd still say the bigger issue we have is an inconsistent defense still. I think if we don't figure out the defense in time for the playoffs, then we're going to have a shorter run than we want. Because we've even with the winning record we've had across the last 11 games, we got blown out twice.
Yeah, I mean, you're pairing, B- goaltending with a bunch of basically, they're all great defenders, but they're also offensive weapons too. And that everyone past the second line, they don't know how to defend at all. So it's unfortunate, and the way to fix that is get Gabe back.
And then you could be right about that. Maybe it's the leadership getting the defense in position.
It's not just leadership. Gabe Landeskog changes that entire team because now you have a second line center that's legitimate, and you have a third line that actually can be,
And I agree with that. But
changes, even if he comes back for 5 minutes a game, he changes the entire flow of their entire thing. It's not just with his leadership. The way he is a great defender on the ice.
True, but
and he gives you critical minutes in front of the net. He's that top line guy that takes up space and isn't afraid to stand in front of the net and tip and grind and get greasy goals. He's definitely important. I'm kind of reminded of, and I hope it doesn't play out the same way, but I'm reminded of the year after I believe it was in 2001 when Forsberg had to miss the entire season.
What I've been saying.
And came back. Yep. And came back and scored like 27 points in 25 games or something.
Ridiculous.
I mean, it was just ridiculous, right? And Peter the Great is man amongst men. And I don't know if you guys know the story or not, but that last season when he just couldn't go, when he was trying to find a skate that would fit, right, or a skate that would work, his ankle was so bad that his shoe size would change a size and a half during the game.
That doesn't surprise me.
That's absurd.
Oh. He's still playing professional hockey.
I know.
After all of that, the man is still standing on skates and beating up other dudes.
20 years later.
How'd you like to roll into beer league and see Peter Forsberg on the other side?
That's just throwing the stick and walking away.
Yeah. Wonder what Shorzy would say if Forsberg walks.
Well, I think ultimately we're saying the same thing, and we're saying it slightly different ways. But Landy needs to be back, and that defense needs to be better going into the playoffs.
Right. And they haven't ruled him out. They keep saying no timetable, but they haven't ruled him out.
There's very short time period left. That's the problem.
They got about a month.
Timetable is not so much a Mesa,
right?
More of
Right. On the injury front, Arturi Lekkonen's got a broken finger. Again, one of those unusual times when they actually said what it is. That almost never happens.
I am 1,000
a couple of times
surprised that they even said that he was injured with a broken finger, being the case.
Well, they'll say injured and they'll say
Upper
upper body, and now we know upper body is anything from the waist to the head out to the
I
ends
know,
of
but
the arms.
when
Or what is it? An injury to his upper extremities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the only reason I'm saying that though is because in hockey, is a broken finger is basically a bruise, right? I mean, for the most part,
Depending
these
on
guys
which
will
hand it is.
they will play through broken
Right.
everything.
Depending on where it is.
depends on which
right?
hand it is. If
True.
it's top hand, he
which
can
hand,
he can do whatever. If it's bottom hand, that's going to be a lot harder.
Right. Yeah. Kadri breaks the other hand. He doesn't play.
Right.
I
in the
guess that's
playoffs
true.
After
Right.
he gets hurt. Right. Yep. So it's the same kind of thing. God, where's Dipshit? We need her for some hockey talk, man. Plus, I wanted to rub it in her face that we make sure you let her know that Toronto sucks.
I'm sure
We had that
a couple times.
discussion for a second because I was
Right.
completely surprised to hear that she was a Maple Leafs fan.
We all were actually.
Because if you're not basically
Yeah, right. We're like, where'd this come
French
from?
Canadian, why the hell would you be
Yeah.
a Maple Leafs fan?
Because you listen
where
to
did
a
this come
lot
from?
of Steve Dangle podcasts.
That's what I
That's
said.
exactly
That's
what was-
exactly what I said. I said
That's
Steve Dangle is
exactly
the
where it
reason,
came from.
That's absurd.
She got hooked on Steve Dangle.
right?
That's wild.
Usually we throw this at the end, but I am going to call out a dipshit of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everyone's favorite bitch,
I just
Jordan
read that.
Bennington.
So Matt sent us the they had Marc-Andre Fleury mic'd up.
No, Michaela said
that
that.
Michaela. That was the
Yeah,
greatest bit of
Michaela.
audio. Have you seen that? I'll have to send it, Tank.
Yeah, you'll
Oh
send,
my
yeah,
God.
send it. So if you haven't seen it out on Twitter, and the whole story is Bennington got mad because somebody skated near him. He actually got suspended for going to the twig and berries with
Yeah.
the stick on the
Yeah.
guy, and then didn't like that they celebrated too close. And I thought he got suspended because he came in with a punch with his stick in
Well, that's
his
how they
hand.
initially announced
Right
it.
over the
Yeah.
They
top.
initially announced it that way, that he was getting suspended for the throwing of the punch with the stick. That's how they
Right.
initially said
Nope,
it.
No,
it's
it's
'cause-
because he
nope.
went after his boys.
Mhm.
Yep, he went
went
Paul
nuts
Bunyan and tried to
on
chop
him.
Yeah,
down
he had
that
to-
tree.
Yeah, he went after the twig and
Right.
berries. That's
He went nut
Right.
bone.
Yeah, and then Fleury and the scrum, Marc-Andre Fleury, everyone's favorite
Fucking love
goalie. I
that
don't care
guy.
who. I fucking love Fleury, man. Fleury tries to start a goalie fight, and what this league needs all the time is a good
still my
goalie
favorite
fight.
thing.
And we got robbed of a great goalie fight.
It would have been
'cause
Marc-Andre
Marc-Andre
Fleury's first and only fight.
Yeah, and he would
He
have beaten
would
the
have
hell out of
kicked
him
his
because we all know Bennington is the bitch.
The way he was talking to that ref, he's like, "It'll be fun.
I know. It'll be fun.
Just
It'll
let
fire
the
up the crowd.
Just let us
Come
go.
on. Come on. It'll be a good time. Just let me go. Just let me
I
go.
just
And
want
he
to
goes,
go.
"Oh,
It's okay."
I'll just go over here and get my stuff." Knowing full well if the linesman lets him go, he's going to take
I'm gonna
one
go grab
step
my phone
because
so I can send that to Frank.
right? Knowing full well because he had taken off all of his stuff in the crease on the
Oh,
other
yeah.
end of the ice. So he didn't even take his helmet and his gloves off in his crease and go. He got
Mm.
down there, took everything off, and was ready. And the linesman kept him separated. He's like, "I'll just go over here and get my stuff then."
And one of my, and
I don't like the way my hair
I don't know
looks.
if I've ever said it on this show. I know I've talked to Mark about it a couple times. One of my all-time favorite moments in NHL history is when Patrick Waugh fought Chris Osgood at center ice.
Oh yeah.
That is one
Oh,
of
yeah.
my favorite moments ever. We lost that
Right.
game, and I still don't care. I loved the fact that Waugh's like,
Right.
all right, fuck it, let's go.
Let's go. Right.
That is so. You're 100% right. A goalie
Oh,
fight
yeah.
will get the crowd moving.
Oh, absolutely. And Waugh fought 2 Detroit goaltenders and tried to fight Hasek and never got there.
Didn't he? He tried to fight Haas. Didn't he
He
fight
tried-
Vernon
no.
too?
Yeah.
Vernon. Yeah.
Yeah, he fought Vernon. He fought Osgood.
He
fight
fought Osgood.
Hasek.
That was still what I think still the bloodiest game in NHL history.
Oh yeah.
There were so many fights in that game.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
You get a chance
Waugh
to
and
watch
Osgood
that.
was the
16
best.
major penalties or something like
Yeah.
that.
It was absurd.
If you haven't watched that documentary about that rivalry, if you're anything close to resembling a hockey fan, you need to, and that will just get
Even if you're just a fight fan, watch that. Watch the
Right.
coverage of that. There was so much
Right.
fighting in that game.
Right. So Jordan Bennington is a bitch. Got suspended for 2 games. He didn't throw a water bottle at anybody, which I guess is his weapon of choice for most
Oh,
times.
he's really bad with it.
Yeah, he missed.
He's really bad with an empty water bottle.
Yeah.
He threw it at cat.
I think throwing a
Like
water bottle
in like
pointless
Finland.
unless it's full, right?
Oh yeah, he threw an empty water bottle at
Yeah.
Kadri in a press conference.
Yeah.
Was he?
It doesn't need to be full for it to be useful.
Yeah.
Which league was it across the seas last week or 2 weeks ago where that fucking goaltender
Yeah, I think it was like a
Being
Swedish
the
semi-pro league.
referee from like
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
across the
Yeah,
ice?
took the Gatorade bottle and beamed him from about 20
Yeah.
feet.
I
Right
think
in the
that
back
was
of the head.
Sweden. I think you're right about
Perfect
that.
throw to the back of the door.
Yeah.
That guy needs to teach Jordan Bennington how to throw.
Yeah. You want to know how to
He
throw
needs to
a water
go
bottle?
play
Don't
for the
go to
Blue
Phoenix.
Jays.
Right.
I just go-
So Jordan Bennington is your dipshit of the week.
That's
Yeah.
well earned, I
As
think.
far as I'm concerned, he can be the dipshit every week, but he earned it this week. What a toolbox.
I don't know. Jaw caught it pretty good last week, but
Yeah, true.
but
True. All right, moving on to baseball. Mark, glad you're here. The World Baseball Classic is up and running. Are you watching this stuff?
No, I'm not watching it. I don't really watch spring training baseball. I'd like if it's on in the bar, like I'll pay attention to the scores, but they're always outrageous. It's like 2-39 or like 17-13. I don't really care about, and this is just an extension of the preseason. It's a little bit different because the stakes are higher because it's for your country. And you saw that with what we'll be talking about here in a minute, but I think the World Baseball Classic, while a good idea and it's probably great for marketing, I think it's really bad for baseball, to be honest with you, because of what we're about to talk about.
Right.
yeah.
It's on in this house from time to time, especially when the U.S. is playing. And I'm not really watching it, but it's on. Tank, are you paying attention to this at all?
A little bit. I've been keeping my eye on it. Yeah.
Kind of that's kind of seems to be the unless you're a major seamhead.
Yeah, I'm
you're
not
all
a-
about it. Right.
I love live baseball, but I I
Right.
follow along to see what's going on until
Right.
regular season hits.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody's requesting a TV on it on the sports bar today.
There you go. Okay, there you go. The big news coming out of the World Baseball Classic: Mets star ace, not ace, but star closer,
Closer.
Edwin
Yeah, he
Diaz.
is
He's
one of the
the-
best closers in the
Pretty
league.
much their
Yeah.
ace now.
Yeah, went full Grammatica and celebrated and tore his patellar tendon, and he is out for the season. Mark, we don't get Timmy Trumpet this year.
So there's a guy I've followed most of his career in the radio, and his name's Jason Smith, and he's a big Jets Mets fan. Every time that I've heard him say something about the Mets, it's never in like, God, the Mets are good. It's always they're going to do this. They are kind of the I don't know, the San Diego Chargers of it's just hilarious.
Well, they won a World Series at one point.
Yeah, at one point,
That was 40 years ago, but
the Buckner boot was almost 40 years ago. Yeah.
The best part of
Yeah.
the Mets was that cocaine-fueled middle 80s.
yeah, that was that team. Yeah. Where everyone was just neck deep in cocaine. For,
Yeah, strawberry oil can. I mean, that group was something else.
Wasn't Lonnie on that team too?
Yep.
Yeah.
No. Yep.
The
God.
cocaine Mets.
That was a reckless team, but
This
getting-
is just something they're trying to do good things, and this is something that happens to them.
well, and
It's just
let's go ahead and be honest. You're not wrong with the Mets are the perennial. But hey, maybe they'll do it this year and always eat shit at the end of the season. Oh
yeah.
So
Not only that, but they still have to pay Bobby Bonilla every year.
how much longer is that?
I think it's only like 3 or 4 years left.
3 or
We're
4
getting
more years.
we're getting close.
We celebrate every year, Tank. That's
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
everyone said. I
There's
think
a
every
few.
red-blooded American needs to celebrate Bobby Bonilla Day just
Right.
for the defiance of
There's
your
a few.
owners.
There's a few days in that stretch of the summer, like late spring, early summer, that we celebrate. One is Bobby Bonilla Day, and another one is Leroy Jenkins Day. That's always a good one.
we do like.
I didn't know the second one.
Oddly enough, Michaela and I always celebrate the 21st of September.
Oh yeah, that's another good one. Yep.
Yeah. Just because of Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you remember the 21st of September?
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Getting back to whether this is going to impact the Mets, yes, but I don't think it matters because they were going to be crap either way.
I mean, they have a couple of big name talents, and they locked this guy up for. They have a good core. They have a much better core than the Rockies do.
Well, so does everybody else. That's
so
not
do the
hard.
Sky Sox, and they don't exist anymore. So
I'm just saying they're an actual Major League Baseball team with like major league contracts and stuff for people who actually play Major League Baseball.
yeah,
They would have made the playoffs.
they should make the playoffs. I will say they should make the playoffs.
This is a 10 game. This is at least a 10-game swing.
Yeah, they're not making the
Oh,
playoffs.
definitely. They're definitely not
This
making it
injury
now,
is-
but I was questionable on whether they were going to get outside of the Phillies again. So
Yeah. This injury, did any hope you had as a Mets
oh,
fan?
it's gone now. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the entirety of the closing is Edwin Diaz.
Right. And
So-
and it's tragic because there was a lot of crossover appeal with the entrance. People were actually maybe not necessarily paying attention to baseball, but they were aware of what was happening, 40 times a year when he would come in, and there was a lot of attention to it. So it's sad that you don't ever want to see, a fantastic talent get hurt like that, especially.
God, who is their
that means-
closer at this point?
Well, who knows now? I mean,
Nobody.
they don't have one. That was the guy.
I would
mean,
have to be, I guess, Ottavino or Robertson, maybe.
It's somebody
Yeah.
de facto from the bullpen, but you
Yeah,
That's who it would have to be. I
if,
think. I
if
mean,
you're relying on Adam Ottavino to be your closer, you're dead.
well, see, that's the problem because I think that's their second best relief pitcher on their team.
God, that guy hasn't been good in 4 years. Trust me, I'm a loyal Red Sox fan. He's pitched for both the Yankees and the Red
Wait,
Sox.
do they still have Drew Smith? Maybe he'd be on there too. Maybe.
Doesn't matter.
Either way, they're gonna
Yeah,
eat.
doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
they're eating shit this year.
Edwin,
That's what's
the
happening.
one player they couldn't lose, they lost.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, one more piece of information. We're out of baseball, I guess, at this point, right? Because
Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, we're still
Fire
talking.
for the third year in a row, Princeton knocked out a number 2 seed.
Oh yeah,
Right.
dude.
They took out Arizona today. I
I-
laughed my ass off as soon as the
So,
news hit.
our parents were in the bar today when that happened.
Oh god.
First thing I said, you guys know my buddy BJ, right, from Arizona?
Mm-hmm.
He helped us with the wedding and stuff, like moving
Mm.
chairs and all that stuff. He's a diehard U of A fan.
Ouch.
If Princeton wins this game, he will 100% try to off himself.
Well,
I've
that's funny.
done a wellness check, and he figured it was going to happen, so he's all right. But I was very worried about BJ.
I was gonna say, did you give him a call?
He's good, but
Good
Yeah.
Lord. Again, I cannot believe it. Just Arizona looked good too. And just Princeton just somehow.
oh, while we're on the NCAA, real quick,
Hmm.
how did Alabama get a 1 seed?
They were
They're-
good this year.
They're that good.
I don't think they're gonna win it all, but they are good
No.
this year.
The problem is, how do you get a 1 seed if you have like 3 or 4 players that are under investigation for?
Oh, because you know as
Capital
well as I
crime.
do that doesn't matter.
Aren't those
Everyone
kids-
knows that doesn't matter until the season's over.
Okay,
They're
It's
still
odd
those-
choice.
they're still playing. So unless they're not playing,
Yeah.
Okay, it just seemed an odd choice to
Hmm.
to me to have that and be.
But that's the thing though, they were dominant during the season. So
Mhm.
that's the only reason. And
They
can't
did
say
a
that
lot
it
of-
was
there was a lot of
undeserved
stuff- There was a lot
given
of
that they
stuff
won.
there.
They may be undeserved because those players probably shouldn't have been playing, but that's something they'll deal with after the season.
Okay.
It's the
I don't think they're
SEC.
going to win, though. I
No.
think it's going to be Houston, to be honest. But
Hey, did you guys see Fordham beat UVA?
Yeah, that was the first game today.
Yeah,
That was fun.
that shot was amazing.
That shot was
What a moment for that kid, man. I mean, from
That
the
whole play though was
I
just.
know.
How would you like to be the kid who threw the ball away to that guy who stole the ball?
Right.
That was,
He gets caught in that trap, and instead of
Mhm.
like calling the timeout that he still had,
I know why the
Oh.
fuck didn't he call the timeout?
the whole situation was just bizarre to me.
Mhm.
It was
Good
just,
God, how do you miss that? It just, ugh.
and then of course he's going to make the shot.
No, of course. No, it's the madness.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
It was awesome.
I mean, it's shades of Valpo. I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
I would say that nothing else was a big surprise, though. This
Right.
first day, like there was just dominance from the teams that needed to win and should have
Yeah.
won. So,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to call that out for the third year in a row. Princeton, as a 15, took out the number 2.
Right. All right, let's tie this thing up. Tank, you got any final thoughts? Pimp the things, talk about it all.
No, I think it's hard, to figure out how this free agency ends and pay attention to the tournament, I guess, as it's going on. And I'm excited for the Nuggets and Avalanche and Broncos right now. I'm wondering if the Rockies are going to have a starting lineup. But Colorado sports looks decent right now. So I'm hopeful.
Hey, we know 2 out of the 4 are good, with a third maybe.
And the fourth once
Fourth,
2 decades ago,
yeah,
almost,
almost.
until they bet the Red Sox in the World Series and got kicked in the nuts.
Right.
That was like 15 years ago, 2007.
20 was it
No,
07?
07.
Or
It was
07?
07. Yeah,
Yeah.
they went in 07.
2004 was the shellacking of the Cardinals.
That one was funny. But
Yep. All right, Mark, what do you got?
Love you guys.
you
There was something
Love
I thought of. I don't remember. Something about Cleveland Spiders and Jane Mingo, I'm sure.
of course. We're ever going to get him on the podcast?
We're trying.
I guess that would require one of us to actually send an email to somebody.
I guess.
I don't know who to contact.
We're not
I'm going to be honest.
To be honest, we're not trying very hard.
We're not trying very
I
hard.
don't know who we contact. Who runs the Ring of
Yeah,
Fame
Tank,
for the
go
Broncos?
ahead. Go ahead and to send off an email for us. That'd be great.
Right? Yeah, find us a contact, Tank. Come on.
Gene Bingo, come on, hook it up.
Right.
It'd be amazing.
Are you
Right.
sure? You could talk to Russell Wilson. You could talk to.
No, we want Gene Mingo.
Gene Mingo
We're
or
bringing him in for a very specific purpose.
Yeah, we need to talk to Gene Mingo. If
We
we
need
get Gene Mingo, we might as well just cancel the show.
Yeah.
It's all over. Just do something.
and it's
else.
Gene Mingo or nobody, Bronco.
Right? Yeah, Gene Mingo or death.
Which,
Give
by the
me-
way,
give
does
me
he even
Mingo.
live in Colorado anymore?
I
Or
have no idea where he is. No clue.
because I know he's
I'm
not
sure they
from
have-
Colorado. So
I'm sure they have Wi-Fi and can do something like this.
Yeah, yeah, in Paducah,
fly him in.
Alabama.
Sure, we'll do that.
Figure it out. Well, make sure you catch us on all of our social channels. You can find us on Facebook. Just search My Brother's an Idiot. On Twitch and Twitter at The Idiot Goons. Mark's Twitter is at Poffeltime. My Twitter is at Poffelupagus. You can catch me on TikTok at King Goon Smoke. I spent the day at New Belgium Brewing today and caught some behind the scenes stuff that I'll be sharing. And then Sunday, I'm going to Michigan for Bell's Brewing Oberon Day on Monday. So I am super excited about that. So keep an eye out for some really cool stuff and some behind the scenes brewery stuff there for all of you beer fans. And plus I'm smoking the corned beef tomorrow. So that also will show up. Lots of content coming on at King Goon Smoke.
Awesome.
Can't wait. For Mark and Tank, the absent Milty. We love you, Milty.
Guilty.
For the absent dipshit, we love you, dipshit.
Dipshit. I'll see you tomorrow. We get you high.
Yay. And for all the Goon Squad, thanks for joining us. Make sure you take care of yourselves. You take care of What?
Be safe tomorrow if you're celebrating the
Yeah.
holiday.
Take care of yourselves. Take care of your families. Take care of each other. This has been My Brother's an Idiot. We'll catch you next time. See ya.